Well, saying we're no more to be fooled by these tactics coming from their side. And I think the lessons learned, the lessons that we're learning every day prove that we're extricating ourselves from this state of hegemonistic management of conflicts here and there. And that's why Africa has become marginalized, because talk about famine, it's Africa becoming an example. Talk about conflict, Africa becomes a pretext for everything. It's dehumanizing.
Africans are now beginning to realize, Africans of goodwill, that we were shortchanged, that we got the short hand of the stick, that we got the crown without the jewels, that we got an animal that had been disemboweled. And that is the stage at which Africa finds herself, the neo-colonial stage, which is the last stage of imperialism and the most dangerous, because the enslaver turned colonizer, turned neo-colonizer, now recognizes that the game is up and that their goose is about to be cooked. And they are not just about to leave, they are going to leave wailing and kicking. And it's going to be bloody.
If we had a fair financial architecture that treats everybody fairly and that does not profile Africa as risky, we would be paying less than half what we are paying today in debt repayments. So we are simply asking that we have a conversation, a candid conversation on having a fairer financial system, and that is why the reform of the multilateral development banks is an urgent necessity.
Welcome to Drive for Africa, your go-to channel for insightful discussions and transformative ideas that aim to elevate the African continent to new heights. In today's video, we bring you a accompanying dialogue among several distinguished African leaders who are envisioning a united Africa, harnessing its immense resources for the collective benefit of its people. Africa, blessed with abundant natural resources, holds the potential to turn us into a catalyst for economic transformation and prosperity. But how do we achieve this ambitious goal? Our leaders have outlined a series of strategic steps that we must undertake to not only enrich our people, but also build a sustainable economy that stands the test of time. Let's begin.
What is the difference between colonialism, slavery, extermination of indigenous people here and there? The goal is one and the same. And then comes this ideology of hegemony, containing this and containing that and creating problems here and there, conflicts here and there. It's the same tactic. It's the pattern, and the trend is obvious for everyone. Now, people have learned their lesson. They're working in solidarity to extricate themselves out of this cycle. It's a cycle. It continues, it happens. Yeah, names may change, tactics may change, but it's the same objective. And we're saying now, in the 21st century, we need to create the ground or prepare the ground for a new world order. We'll never continue to live like this. And I talk about Africa, but Asia, go there. It's the same thing. Looking for conflict between us and that nation. One people and another people. One ethnic group, another ethnic group. It's a repetition of slavery. George Floyd's history is nothing unique. I mean, how many people are enslaved in the Americas now? Whether they come from the South or whether they've been there for the last 2-3 centuries. The same thing going on in many parts of the world. So it's trendy. The pattern is the same. Tactics may change. The tools they use may change with times. But again, I say it's the same trend and the same ideology that we face. And the good thing now is the awareness that we see evolving everywhere, and the organization and the solidarity that is taking shape, like what we've seen the last 2 summits. Russia-Africa summit is not unique. It's part of the broader strategy where people of the world are saying we don't want to go on suffering from this sick ideology. What is the difference between colonialism, slavery, extermination of indigenous people here and there? The goal is one and the same. And then comes this ideology of hegemony, containing this and containing that and creating problems here and there, conflicts here and there. It's the same tactic. It's the pattern and the trend is obvious for everyone. Now, people have learned their lesson. They're working in solidarity to extricate themselves out of this cycle. It's a cycle. It continues, and happens. Yeah, names may change, tactics may change, but it's the same objective. And we're saying now, in the 21st century, we need to create the ground or prepare the ground for a new world order. We'll never continue to live like this. And I talk about Africa, but Asia, go there. It's the same thing. Looking for conflict between us and that nation. One people and another people. One ethnic group, another ethnic group. It's a repetition of slavery. George Floyd's history is nothing unique. I mean, how many people are enslaved in the Americas now? Whether they come from the South or whether they've been there for the last 2-3 centuries. The same thing going on in many parts of the world. So it's trendy. The pattern is the same. Tactics may change. The tools they use may change with times. But again, I say it's the same trend and the same ideology that we face. And the good thing now is the awareness that we see evolving everywhere, and the organization and the solidarity that is taking shape, like what we've seen the last 2 summits. Russia-Africa summit is not unique. It's part of the broader strategy where people of the world are saying we don't want to go on suffering from this sick ideology. We'll have to go on. There is a lot of work to do. It's an uphill struggle. It's not an easy way. You have so many challenges facing everybody. And above anything else, for Africa, it's unique because Africa is the only marginalized continent that has a population of 1.2 billion now. In a matter of a generation, it will double. And Africa will have to find a better opportunity for a world order that will enable Eritrea to Africa to extricate itself from this marginalization. Above any other continent, Africa has more of an interest to work for achieving this mission. So I say this is not a coincidence. This is a natural solidarity or alliance coming because of the history that we have witnessed for centuries, where human beings, nations, and peoples have been suffering. We have to look for a new world order. That is the common goal that everybody has been trying to find an explanation, but ultimately it's one goal and one mission.
We must begin to do things differently. We must begin to do things that will liberate us in agriculture. What are we doing in agriculture in Africa? Who makes your seed Syngenta and Monsanto? Who supplies you with water? Coca-Cola. Who supplies you with chicken? They get chicken here in Namibia and then they call them Kentucky Fried Chicken. Why they are not called fried chicken, I've never understood. We must begin to feed our people, and Africa can feed ourselves. You talk about unemployment. Why can we employ our young men and women in the agricultural sector? The South Africans are doing it in the wine areas. Why can't we do it? If the Israelis are engaged in dry land agriculture, I'm told that Sam Nujoma, when he was in the bush and even when he became the president, dreamt of a Namib and Kalahari desert that would be green. Are those dreams not valid? Is it not possible to convert the Kalahari desert into a green environment? Is it not possible to produce food that can feed Sadak? Why Why must we limit our thinking? Those of you who are leaders here, those in parliament, sometimes I'm beginning to debate and to ask myself, this thing that we call parliaments, with due respect to those who are parliamentarians, can we not re-examine them so that we stop wearing wigs in them, so that they begin to respond to our realities? In other words, we can forget the form and look at the substance. Is it possible to do things in a different way so that we achieve things in a manner that we understand? Because Alexander Pope once said, a little modernity is a dangerous thing. Drink deep the western spring or taste not. Is it possible that these governance structures that we have do not respond to our needs? We are told that there is something called democracy. Who defines it? Who is this who has the monopoly of wisdom, whom God sent without our knowledge, to tell us that the democracy must have certain ingredients which are defined for us in Europe and America? Can't we define them in Windhoek? Can't we define them in Pretoria? Can't we define them in Maputo so that we have something with an African flavor? Can we not? In other words, time has come that we must make our universities the seats of thought. The minerals that we have, can we not add value? The borders that we have, and I said in the morning and I'll repeat it again, why? When I want to come to Namibia, must I ask, do I need a visa? Why? Why do I need a visa? Why do I need a visa to go to Liberia? Why do I need a visa to go to Ghana? Why can't I wake up in Nairobi in the morning and come to Windhoek here just to see Windhoek? Because an American in Boston, Massachusetts can wake up in the morning, fly 6 hours, and is only grappling with one currency, the dollar. Look at your Africa. Then you delude yourself that you can grow. How can you grow? When you have a population of 1.2 billion people and none of our currencies is called hard currency, not one.
There are two developmental agendas. There's what you call self-reliant sustainable development and self-sufficient sustainable development. The self-sufficient sustainable development is what the Soviet Union was trying to do. That is, feeling that you can isolate yourself from the rest of the world and build an economy. And to do that, you have to produce your raw materials in total. You must have to be able to process them, and you must be able to build the machines to process them. Then you can be isolated from the rest of the world. But essentially, that is not the type of paradigm that has worked. What you need is self-sustaining, sustainable development that is self-reliant, meaning that still you can interact on the basis of equality with all other economies in the world. So it means that each individual country must have a self-reliant economy. That requires you to produce the raw materials that you need. It requires that you process the raw materials. It requires that you work with others to build the machines that you need to produce what you need, either collectively as a region, just like Europe is trying to form the European Union. Africa needs to have continental unity. And with continental unity, of course, Africa will be able to develop, and it can trade with the rest of the world on the basis of equality. So we now need a resilient Africa, which will be able to come together to build what is required to facilitate that development. When the Second World War devastated Europe. What happened? America told Europe, go and meet, develop an European recovery program. And they developed a recovery program, which required agricultural production, it required production of energy, it required processing, it requires also inter-European trade. That is what facilitated the development of Europe. In Africa, a continent is abundant with wealth. What you need is to translate that into an economic policy that will address the problems of the continent. And one economic policy that no nation can survive without is to ensure that this state is a productive state where power is derived from the consent of the people. What do you expect of a government? And there is absolutely no doubt that if you look at what is happening in the world, many countries are building a productive state. That's how Singapore developed. That's how Norway develops. Norway has sovereign national wealth of over $1 trillion. That's how some of these Arab countries have been developing. Of course, they are monarchies, but they've been using their oil to build sovereign national wealth. And African countries must make sure that the oil, the diamond, the minerals must be translated into sovereign national wealth, because it's that sovereign national wealth that will enable you to build infrastructure.